Welcome to One Step Past, and this is way past strange. The falling rocks and fish of Chico, California. In an earlier episode of Way Past Strange, I talked about weird rain throughout history. Click on the link below to watch that video. There was one case of weird rain, however, that I thought deserved its very own episode. This is very peculiar. If the events that happened in Chico were indeed reported accurately, then it is most certainly paranormal phenomenon. What deserves closer examination is that the happenings in Chico were far from a one-time event. It's also important to note that Chico, California in 1922 is not the only time that rocks have fallen from the sky. Before we get into that incident, we should take a look at these other occurrences. December 1842, Live, France. For several days, stones fell intermittently from the sky over this French town. If it was just one drop of rocks in one incident, you could explain this away as having something to do with being carried by a wind current. The mere fact that this shower of rocks happened for several days in a certain pattern is a bit harder to explain. January 1849, Paris, France. For 3 weeks, stones fell upon a house near the Pantheon in Paris. March 5th through 6th, 1885, Chico, California. It was reported that overnight, a large heavy object weighing several tons fell from the sky near the town of Chico. This was long before the falling rocks incident of 1921-22. Could this have been a meteorite or something else? January 2nd, 1887, Oroville, California. The area of Northern California where Chico and the nearby town of Oroville are located is considered earthquake country. As such, it's not totally unusual to hear loud rumblings. However, on this day in 1887, the loud detonations heard were said by meteorologists to have come from the sky. As far as we know, nothing fell that day, but there is always a connection between these falling rocks and the sky. 1893, Oroville, California. An iron object, said to be meteoric, was found in Oroville. How do we know for sure that this was meteoric? Even if it was a meteor, how come so much stuff is falling from the sky in this area of California? April 9th, 1919, Cumberland Falls, Kentucky. 2 dissimilar stones, cemented together, were seen to fall from the sky. July 1921 through March 1922, Chico, California. The previous incidents mentioned are just some that I found in my research. What other incidents of falling rocks have there been, and why didn't they receive more media attention and study at the time? While these earlier cases were allowed to be dismissed by the public at large, what happened in Chico, California in 1921-22 was showtime and wasn't going to be ignored. For a while, this was big news, and there were reasons. Allegedly, the rocks had been falling in Chico since July 1921, but absolutely no publicity of it was made until November of that year by the town newspaper. On January 1st, 1922, a warehouse owner by the name of J.W. Charge complained to the city marshal J.A. Peck that someone was throwing rocks at his building. At first, Marshal Peck wasn't too concerned and thought that it was just some kids committing vandalism. His mind would change on the subject, but he would never find a suitable answer to his question. Upon the course of his investigation, Marshal Peck actually saw the falling rocks, but he could not explain it. By the middle of March 1922, his official statement on the case was that he believed someone with a machine was throwing the rocks. The falling rocks was enough of a menace that it got the attention of the San Francisco Chronicle newspaper and the New York Times, making this a nationally covered story. The rocks continued to fall down on Chico for the rest of March, then stopped. It remains an unsolved mystery. These are the things we know about the falling rocks of Chico, California. Number 1. They always come from a cloudless sky. This is most key. The rocks fall on bright, sunny days, so you can't blame them on being carried by a storm. Number 2. The rocks fall straight down after just seemingly materializing in the sky. This would go against the Marshall's theory of someone using a machine like a catapult. If that was the case, they would come from an angle. Number 3. The rocks vary in size, but many of them are large, smooth rocks. Number 4. The rocks are often oval-shaped. Number 5. The rocks are warm to the touch. Number 6. Some of the rocks are very large and could weigh up to a pound. Number 7. At least in one case, a boulder fell from the sky and nearly struck 2 investigators. Number 8. Upon studying the rocks, it was discovered that they were not meteoric, as some of them had cementation. Number 9. There seemed to be an intelligence to how the rocks fell. Although some people who got too close to investigate were struck by the rocks, some of the rocks landed gently near people. The purpose of these falling rocks, more or less, was to do property damage. Number 10. The rocks seemed to fall predominantly on 2 adjoining warehouses and the surrounding homes in Chico, although there was at least one occasion of the rocks dropping 3 blocks away. Number 11. A man was suspected of being the cause of these falling rocks, but was cleared when he was out of town on March 14, 1922, one of the days the rocks fell. The last item interests me greatly. Who was this man, and why did the police think he was a suspect? I definitely would not have ruled him out as a suspect because he was out of town. Could he have moved these rocks by telekinesis? We know that he couldn't have physically thrown these rocks, and what possible machine could he have used, especially in 1922? If a person was behind the falling rocks, the possibilities have dwindled down to something special. Continuing on the idea that the person responsible was telekinetic, just who or what was he? Was he responsible for the other incidents of falling rocks we know about in France, Northern California, even Kentucky? How old is this being? There is an 80-year span between the Levay, France, and Chico, California incidents. And did he have anything to do with the falling fish? Yes, that's right. I bet you thought I forgot about the falling fish. No such luck. August 20th, 1878, Chico, California. Before the first known incident of a rock falling from the sky in Chico in 1885, many fish dropped down upon an area of several acres. A lot of these fish covered the roof of a store in the streets. Another important thing worth mentioning is that these fish dropped down from a cloudless sky. If these fish were not carried by the wind or a waterspout, how did they get dropped on Chico and why? Is there any connection between the fish and the rocks? May 16th, 2017, Oroville, California. Much more recently, there was another dropping of fish not too far from Chico in the town of Oroville. Much like the 1878 incident in Chico, this defies easy explanation. As far as anyone knows, no one actually saw the fish fall on this day. They landed on the Stanford Avenue Elementary School. At first it was thought the fish were brought over by a waterspout from nearby Feather River or Lake Oroville. This was not the case, however, as the fish were carp and did not live in those bodies of water. On top of that, it was a fact that there were no storms or unusual weather that morning. Then it was thought that these foreign fish were carried over by birds. The problem with that is that the fish had no signs of claw marks or being eaten in any way. There was also no record of an airplane transporting carp in the area. Between the falling fish and the falling rocks, there are so many similarities. It has been such a long span of time, and no one knows any more about it today than they did in the 19th century. If it is a natural phenomenon or some inhuman creature, the reasons behind these acts are still unclear and way past strange. Thank you for watching. If you like what you've seen, hit like and subscribe. Follow me for more fantastic out there videos. Have yourself a strange but happy day.